want to talk about a feature that has been around in Excel for a very long time, but very few of us use it. Now, with that said, in today's Excel world, we might not have a lot of situations where we would need to use it. We have tables and such to replace this type of functionality. But I want to talk about arrays and array functions and where they can be really useful for us. And there are a wide variety of situations where they could be useful for us. So let's kind of start with a little introduction video here and talk about a basic array. So what I have here is a spreadsheet, and I have just a sales ID number, I have a product that was sold, the unit price, the quantity, and a calculated total. So I could put in the total to say equals this times this, hit enter, and fill it down. And that really didn't take too much. We could have replaced this with an array. And here's the advantage to an array. First of all, you are storing that many functions for essentially the same thing. Just take this cell times this cell, put it here. So we're storing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 separate functions for that. And in this situation, not a big deal. In a bigger scenario, 10,000 records, 20,000 records, million records, then yeah, it could become a deal. And I want to keep my Excel files small and fast. So we might want to separate this with an array or do it with an array. So I'm going to do something a little strange. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to highlight all the cells that I want to put the total in. Okay, so I've selected those cells, and that is important. Then I'm going to press equals. And instead of just doing one cell times the next cell, I'm actually going to do this range multiplied by this range. And normally in Excel, this makes absolutely no sense. It's not going to know what to do with this range. It's going to say, that's great, but what am I supposed to do with this? And that's great, but what am I supposed to do with that? We have to wrap them with summary functions all the time, right? Add up these numbers, then times them by these numbers added up. Whereas if I specify this as an array, what I'm saying is I'm telling it to walk through each cell reference and treat it individually. Don't treat these as a group. So in order to do that, you'd put in a function that normally wouldn't make any sense. And then I'm going to hold down Control and Shift on my keyboard and press Enter. And as you can see, it does it. Now, if you look at my formula bar, it's put these little curly braces around the whole function. If you type them in, it still won't work. You have to hold down Control and Shift to put in that array. And you'll notice that this works perfectly. Here's a couple advantages that I get from this. Number one, it's consistent. So I'm guaranteed that all these functions are going to be consistently the same, and that's because I actually can't change just one of them. It will not let you come in here and modify just one of these formulas on its own. It will not do it. If you want to modify an array, you actually have to select the entire array and then make your modification, and then it will be fine, making sure to hit Control Shift Enter to finish it. Here's another example of this. If I go over to this array ranges sum, I have a very similar situation, except I want a total here. So if I were to put in a function that said equals sum, open bracket, and I said I would like all of these numbers multiplied by all of these numbers, and then add them up with that sum function, it was not going to work. If I hit enter, it says, I don't know what you're talking about. How am I supposed to deal with this range and this range before I multiply them? So I simply put in the exact same function, hold Control Shift Enter. Now all of a sudden it's working perfectly, because as an array, I'm telling it to step through and treat each of these cells individually, do that multiplication, then add them all up. So I don't have to add a completely separate column here for a total and then sum that up. I've really made a nice clean spreadsheet this way. So array functions have their place. And if you have any questions, be sure to post in the comments, or you can send me an email directly.